The king. The king of kings. On your knees, dog. All hail. Bow down to the king.
And away we go. Welcome to the first edition of OhNo Wrestling Smark Check. Some of you may be asking, what the fuck is this? And to you I say, this is the evolution of OhNo Wrestling. Actually, this is a way for Owen and Duncan to avoid me messaging them in private to point out everything they got wrong in the last episode. So instead, I'll be following every episode of OhNo Wrestling with a mini podcast where I get to have fun pointing out every mistake Owen and Duncan made. And we all know it's mostly Owen. And also, add a little bit more information into what they talked about. This is not about if I agree or disagree with Owen and Duncan. It's simple about making sure you, the OhNo Wrestling audience, get the facts. Not like the stupid Kurt Hawkins segs that they have been going on about facing facts. We're talking about actual facts. But enough about what the Smark Check is. I think it's time we start the Smark Check. And unfortunately, the first mistake I've got to point out is one by Duncan. Yeah, I know, it's usually the other guy, but Harvey Whippleman's girl that you called Big Bertha, she was actually called Bertha Faye. And they did that funny little angle where he started making out with her. I don't get it. Little guys, fat chicks. You know the deal. But we move on to the next thing that I want to talk about, and that is Owen asked the question about Nia Jax's finisher. If she had one, if it had a name, if we gave a shit. And just to be clear, Nia Jax has had two finishers. She had a fireman's carry into a power slam and a running leg drop. Neither of them ever had names. She mostly did the leg drop in NXT. She hasn't won with it here, but it might do her some good to give her finisher, give her name. I don't know, it's against Alicia Fox, who really gives a fuck. Also, this isn't really a fact, more something that I wanted to point out and congratulate Owen on finding a new way to be racist to Samoans. Fat shaming. Yeah. Owen, maybe Duncan, mostly Owen, asked if Brian Kendrick could do funny. And I have to point out when Brian first came to WWE, it was under the name Spanky, who was a jobber on SmackDown trying to find anything he could do for a job, including a highlight where he does a rap battle with John Cena. So you tell me, can Spanky do some comedy? But if we want to keep talking about Super Cena, a mistake that Owen made was John Cena's last clean non-pay-per-view loss was not last October. No. It was in October of 2009 against Triple H. Let that sink in. Let it sink in. Almost 7 years without being pinned clean in the middle of the ring when it wasn't a pay-per-view. And we were talking about the buying of TNA and whether or not it's worth $4 million. Owen said that WCW was sold for $4 million, so he thought it was about right. Actually, WCW was sold for a whopping $2 million. So I don't know who's giving you that $4 million number, but they're way off because there's no way that TNA has anything that WCW had. Mostly because they started in 2002. So we're talking about less than 14 years of content. They started as the NWA Total Nonstop Action 2002 to 2007, and then they broke away from the NWA in 2007 to currently. So a lot of people might not know, the NWA stands for the National Wrestling Alliance. And if that sounds familiar, it's because WCW was originally called Crockett Promotions, and that was part of the NWA. And it's basically a grouping of individual promotions that kind of band together. Back in the 70s and the 80s, it was a huge thing. Actually, the NWA World Championship that you saw like Dusty battling Flair for, that was the NWA. That was their World Championship. It would go from promotion to promotion and kind of do a traveling thing. I guess that's your little Smart history lesson for today. Also, while we're talking about TNA, you're talking about what the roster looks like, what the numbers are. Well, I will tell you that there are currently 35 male wrestlers on the TNA roster, and that's including Cody Rhodes, who hasn't appeared yet, but he is confirmed to have signed a contract. And we have 12 knockouts, which is their women's division. And that's including Brandy Rhodes, who hasn't appeared yet, but again has signed. And there's also been questions about whether or not they'd be able to use their names. So Brandy Rhodes has never appeared as Brandy Rhodes on WWE television. So she can't actually use that name because they only trademark stuff that ends up on television. Whereas Cody Rhodes won't be allowed to use it because it's a WWE trademark because he was on TV with it. I know, I don't get it. Fucking, it's Rhodes. It was a name before the WWE, but It's the way Vince likes it. Another question that was brought up, or more Owen pointed out that I probably would be screaming at him about, is how many titles Sean Waltman has actually held, either as the 1-2-3 Kid, as Xbox, or as Six. Listen, he's held a ton of championships and a bunch of promotions that you won't know the name of, so I'll just go over the three that you would. He's been the TNA X Division champion once. He has held the WCW or the WWF Cruiserweight Championship twice. He was a WCW Tag Team Champion with Nash and Hall with the Outsiders when they were doing their little Freebirds thing, which I guess now is the New Day thing, where three guys hold on to two championships. He was also a two-time WWF European Champion, a two-time WWF Light Heavyweight Champion, and a four-time Tag Team Champion. Once with Bob Holly, back when he was Sparkplug Holly, we all remember that. Marty Jannetty, and also twice with Kane, which to me was one of my favorite tag teams growing up, X-Pac and Kane. I don't know why, it just was. And I say WWF because he was actually never a champion once WWF became WWE. So he's never held a WWE championship. He's only held WWF championships. I know it's a little thing, but it's a cool little trivia piece. And the last thing really that I want to talk about is Owen brought up he thought Kane had come through a ring once at a Hell in a Cell, and he even named Hell in a Cell 1997. Unfortunately, he was wrong. Kane actually appeared, ripped the door off the cell, gave a tombstone to his brother, and left to pin, or for HBK to get his pin. However, he has come out of the ring 3 times, in fact. In January 2012, he came and tried to drag Zack Ryder to hell, but for whatever reason, Cena was doing his little save Zack Ryder bullshit that was going on, and Cena actually saves Ryder from going under the ring. Then, on Raw, April 28th, 2014, when he was in his feud with Daniel Bryan, he actually came from under the ring and drug Brie Bella down with him. And most recently, Seth Rollins, September 21st, 2015, was dragged to hell by Kane. What I think Owen was actually thinking about was that The Undertaker pulled Diesel down in Your House 6 in 1996 in a cage match for the WWF title against Bret Hart. And this actually is what led to their WrestleMania 12 match. And there you have it, our first, but hopefully not last, OhNo Wrestling Smark Check. And since we came in with a song I wanted, I figured we'd go out with a song Owen and Duncan might appreciate. See you next week.